My husband was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. In order to prevent his condition from getting worse, I lied to my son that I had cancer and asked him to sell the wedding house to raise money. The filial son suddenly changed his attitude. Then just jump off the building. Don't drag me down. My husband, with whom I have been respectful for 30 years, holds the hand of my first love with eyes full of anticipation. Once we get her insurance money, we'll buy a big villa together and never separate again. It turned out that before getting married, he was a bootlicker of my first love, because my first love didn't want to get married, have children and disappear in the crowd. He had no choice but to marry me. In order to make me give up, he transferred the remaining money in the family to his first love, and felt secretly proud of himself. Don't even think about getting treatment. We don't have a penny at home. But what he didn't know was that it was not me who needed treatment but him. When I was holding the medical report that confirmed my husband Arlo had advanced lung cancer, I felt dizzy. After a long pause, I finally accepted the reality with tears in my eyes. My 70-year-old husband was in the advanced stage of lung cancer. There was no time to lose, so I ran around looking for experts for my husband. In the late stage of cancer, time is life. I have been married to Arlo for 30 years and I cannot just watch him die. After finally getting an appointment with a specialist, I returned home exhausted. Before entering the door, I turned on the front camera of my phone to take a picture of my face. After making sure there was no sign of crying, I smiled and opened the door. I don't want to let Arlo know that he has cancer for the time being, because I once read on the internet that many cancer patients can function normally when they don't know they have cancer, but once they find out their condition deteriorates rapidly. I don't dare to gamble with Arlo's health. Arlo was not at home. I hesitated for a moment, took out my cell phone and called my son. "Mom, why are you calling me out of the blue?" Only when I heard my son's voice on the phone did I feel a little relieved. My son has always been filial, and he will definitely help his father after knowing his situation. "Son, something has happened at home and we need money urgently. Can you raise 500,000 yuan for Mom?" The son paused for 2 seconds. "What happened?" "The results of my medical examination have come out. I have lung cancer. It will cost a lot of money to treat it." I bit my lip. It wasn't that I didn't want to tell the truth to my son, but the more people knew about Arlo's advanced lung cancer, the greater the risk of it being leaked. After all, they are my parents. It doesn't matter whether the mother is sick or the father is sick. The son will not just stand by and watch them die. I said as I planned, "When the time comes, I'll sell the house your father and I own, and there will still be 200,000 left in the bank card plus your 500,000. Wait a minute, where am I going to get 500,000? My son interrupted me irritably. "You know my wife needs money even though she's pregnant." I heard the impatience in my son's tone and was slightly stunned, but it was obviously not the time to care about these things. "My daughter-in-law is only 3 months old now. Don't worry. Didn't your father and I buy you a wedding house when you got married? Although the house price has dropped, can still buy you 1 million. "What? You're planning to take over my house?" Before I could finish my words, my son interrupted me again. I couldn't help but get angry. "I'm your mother. How can you just stand by and watch someone die? And I'm not asking you to give me all the money. You can use the remaining 500,000 yuan to rent a house or move to a smaller one." I finished what I wanted to say in one breath, but my son remained silent. I thought he was struggling. Come to think of it, it is a bit cruel for my son to lose the home he has lived in for 2 years just when he has just tasted the joy of being a father. But for Arlo, I have no choice. At worst, I can find a cleaning job to help my son and his family when Arlo's condition stabilizes. Thinking of this, I opened my mouth, but my son spoke before me. "Don't treat me anymore. Just jump off the building. I don't want to be dragged down." In an instant my heart sank to the bottom, and I didn't even notice that my son hung up the phone. What happened today was so overwhelming that I could hardly breathe. After searching the whole house and still not finding the property deed and checking the balance in my bank card, and seeing that it was 0, I finally couldn't help but sit on the sofa and break down and cry. "Arlo, what can I do to save you?" I don't know how long I cried, but Arlo came back with a happy face and was shocked when he saw my expression. "What's wrong, wife?" He picked up a tissue and wiped my tears. "Okay, stop crying. You are over 60 years old and you are crying like a little cat." With his comfort, I gradually stopped crying, picked up the passbook in my hand and handed it to him. "The money in the bank card is gone, and the house deed at home. Did you touch it?" originally prepared for Arlo Lu's treatment was suddenly gone. Now I can only hope that Arlo Lu had known the results of his medical examination earlier, and withdrew the money himself. Arlo Lu's eyes flashed with a trace of guilt. What's wrong? I grabbed his hand like a life-saving straw. Did you really move? Not yet. It's in my other bank card. A friend of mine is in a hurry to buy a house, and I want to lend her some money. Arlo Lu pulled his hand away from mine stiffly, and I suddenly realized something was wrong. It's okay for you to use your bank card to borrow money, but why did you use the property deed? Are you going to sell your house to lend money to them? As soon as the words fell, Arlo Lu's face changed instantly, and his brows furrowed. What's the tone of your voice? The property title is in my name. The money is earned by myself, and even you are supported by me. What's wrong with me deciding how to spend my own money? No, you can't lend me this money. I almost shouted this sentence. The atmosphere was quiet for 2 seconds and then Arlo Lu's cell phone rang and he picked it up subconsciously. I don't know what the other party said, but Arlo Lu showed a look of shock on his face. He suddenly looked at me and said, "Wife, our son said that you have advanced lung cancer." Arlo Lu had a sad expression on his face and his eyes were red. "Wife, I didn't know you had cancer. You must be in a lot of pain now, right?" Although the steps were a little off, the ending was correct. The money was still in hand and Arlo Lu didn't know that he had cancer. I nodded and said, "So this money cannot be borrowed. It must be kept for medical treatment." "But, wife, advanced cancer cannot be cured." Arlo Lu's words completely stunned me. I almost suspected that I had heard it wrongly, and murmured, "What?" Arlo Lu sighed. "Instead of using all the money to treat your illness and then leaving you penniless, it's better to leave the money to someone who needs it more. Isla needs the money more than you do. When you die, I can get an insurance payment, and we can live well in the future." Isla Shun. I caught the name in his words. Isla Shun, Arlo Lu's first love. Although she was Arlo Lu's first love, it was only Arlo Lu's one-sided love for her. After marrying me, in order to reassure me, Arlo Lu took the initiative to cut off contact with Isla Shun, and the relationship lasted for 30 years. And Isla Shun doesn't seem to like Arlo Lu. She even attended our wedding and we added each other as friends at the wedding. She is a free and easygoing person and has never been married. I often see photos of her traveling around the world. She said in her circle of friends that traveling around the world is her lifelong dream. She was even traveling in Australia 10 days ago. They were not together 30 years ago. So how could they have developed an improper relationship after 30 years? Arlo Lu was just joking and trying to scare me. I subconsciously didn't want to believe it, but was slapped in the face the next second. I just listened to what Arlo Lu said. "That's right, Alara, since you're going to die soon, I won't hide it from you." Arlo Lu spoke slowly. Isla came back this time and told me that she was too old to walk anymore, and wanted to settle down. If I could buy her a house, she would be willing to be with me. "Are you crazy?" My tears burst out instantly and I questioned him. Although I knew that my cancer was fake, Arlo Lu didn't know that. So, he really wanted to give up saving me when I had cancer and use the money to buy a house for my first love. The Arlo Lu in front of me was so strange. He seemed to have nothing to do with Arlo Lu, my husband of 30 years, whom I had been running around begging for help from everyone. But they were indeed the same person. For the past 30 years, I had misjudged him. Arlo Lu didn't care at all. He took out his mobile phone and operated it while talking. "We have been married for so many years. You don't want me to lose both my money and my life, right? Anyway, you are going to die soon. I have to find someone to accompany me. Isla only wants a house, but it's just a matter of you living a few days less." At the end of the day, Arlo Lu probably felt that what he said was not human language. A fleeting flash of guilt passed through his eyes, but he became firm in an instant. "Alara, you know how important Isla Shun is to me. I will give her whatever she wants." After that, he showed me his phone again and said, "Now our family is really out of money. You should stop thinking about treatment and stay at home." On the page was a text message from the bank prompting that the transfer was successful. Arlo Lu transferred all the money, including the proceeds from the sale of the house we lived in, total of 1.5 million, to Isla Shun. Oh, by the way, although this house has been sold to someone else, it will be delivered in 3 months. You can still live here. Don't blame me. I have done my best for you. He fantasized happily. "When your insurance money arrives, I can buy a villa for Isla. I finally gave up completely. My husband, who is 70 years old, is still a bootlicker of my first love. What else can I say? On Arlo I suddenly felt tired. Arlo, who was in the late stage of lung cancer, could get proper treatment. I calmly withdrew from the expert appointment that I had waited in line for a long time, and deleted the loan platform that I had just downloaded. I don't care what Arlo will become. Seeing through Arlo Lu's character, I started a unilateral cold war with Arlo Lu. Only cook for myself and I don't wash Arlo Lu's clothes. I used to be the most hardworking and my house was always spotless, but now, there is a layer of dust on the floor. The trash can is full to overflowing, and the piles of dirty clothes give off a sour smell, but I pretend not to see it. Arlo Lu was very angry and felt that I was going backwards and not fulfilling my duties as a wife, so she ordered me to give up treatment. Maybe I have a rebellious mentality. Every day Arlo Lu advises me to give up treatment, but I say I must treat it, even if I have to take out a loan. The main point is that if I'm not happy then no one else can be happy. Arlo Lu was really afraid that I would take out a loan and leave him a debt when I died, so he quickly called my son to persuade me. As soon as the son arrived he fell to his knees on the ground and started crying. Mom, you can't live anymore. But we still have to live. Think about your grandson. He hasn't been born yet. Can you bear to see him not even have a sip of milk powder after he is born? I sneered and didn't buy it at all. Okay, if you don't treat me, I will go to your workplace and make a scene. I will let all your colleagues and leaders in the company know what kind of person you are. Then when your son is born, he really won't be able to afford formula milk. When my son heard me say that, his face turned pale and he quickly apologized to me. No, Mom, that's not what I meant. The son pretended to be in pain. You know that our situation is really incurable. How can it not be cured? It's not like my family is short of money. It's just that Arlo Lu gave all the money to Isla Shun. That's enough. Arlo Lu looked at me righteously, his eyes full of coldness. You can't be so selfish. You have to think about your family too. Giving up treatment is good for all of us. So what you mean is, if it was you who got cancer, you would just jump off a building and never drag me down, right? Arlo Lu straight in the eyes without giving in. My sharp gaze made him feel very embarrassed. He avoided my gaze but continued to point it at me. Of course, I'm not as selfish as you. How could I drag others down when I'm dying? I nodded thoughtfully, and just when they thought I was finally willing to give up treatment, I smiled and said, but I don't want to die, so I'll continue with the treatment. Seeing that I was not listening, my son got mad, stood up suddenly and kicked the table hard. You old woman, you are unreasonable. Arlo Lu's face was not good either. I really misjudged you. I knew they were planning something big, but when I went out the next day I was still shocked by the scene at the entrance of the apartment building. There were 5 or 6 reporters with cameras gathered at the door, and a fat woman was kneeling in front of the camera and crying. I beg all netizens to help me. I really have no other choice. My mother-in-law has advanced lung cancer, but she forced my husband to sell our house to raise money for her. Our family is almost being dragged down by her. I am still pregnant now and I really don't know what to do. My poor child. He has been dragged down by his own grandmother before he was even born. How is he going to live in the future? It's really not that we are cruel. My mother-in-law is usually a mean person. She is not nice to me and my husband. We just tolerate her in small matters. But now she doesn't even want to leave us a way out. She is trying to force our family to death. There were many people passing by the entrance of the apartment building, and the daughter-in-law's crying quickly attracted a lot of people. When they saw me coming out, the reporters immediately surrounded me like wolves seeing meat. Don't you feel guilty for sucking the blood of your family just to survive like a schistosome? You usually criticize your son's family, and at the critical moment you force your son to sell his house to save you. Don't you feel guilty? My daughter-in-law rushed to me and knelt down. Mom, please give us a chance to live. People around were pointing and talking, and Arlo Lu came out of the corridor, hugged me and cried heartbreakingly, "Wife, we won't treat it anymore. Dear, we won't treat it anymore." What is there for me to not understand after reading this? They brought a bunch of people together and pinned false charges on me, in order to morally blackmail me into giving up treatment. My heart sank. I never dreamed that Arlo Lu and my son would treat me like this. If it weren't for this misunderstanding, I would have been kept in the dark. Fortunately, I wasn't the one dying. Arlo Lu away indifferently. If you don't want to treat me, then just give me 100,000. Right. Arlo, you looked puzzled, not understanding why I changed so quickly. I smiled. I've been stuck at home my whole life. Can't I go out and see the beautiful mountains and rivers of my motherland before I die? Arlo, you looked constipated and reluctant. That won't cost 100,000. What are you afraid of? Anyway, the insurance payout is 1 million. You won't lose anything. Looking at the reporters who were ready to make a move, his face changed. What are you talking about? Honey, if you want to go out for a walk, of course I support you. It has nothing to do with the insurance money. Arlo, you brought Isla Shun home. When I opened the door, I saw her sitting on the sofa in a plain white dress. Isla Shun is 2 years younger than Arlo Lu, and is 68 years old this year. But perhaps because she has traveled around the world and has no worries about life, she looks exceptionally young, only about 40 or 50 years old, with her head held high like a noble white swan. Arlo Lu, who was sitting next to him, was servile, and looked like an old-age bootlicker. Isla Shun looked at me with disdain when I walked in. Alara, I heard that you asked Arlo Lu for 100,000 yuan to go traveling. I said coldly, what's it got to do with you? Don't you know that Arlo Lu gave me all the money? Isla Shun smiled faintly and raised his chin proudly. No, I nodded, but that is marital property. I can get it back if I don't agree. After I finished speaking, the first person to get anxious was not Isla Shun, but Arlo Lu. He stood in front of Isla Shun like a knight and shouted at me, didn't I agree to your request? Alara, why are you crazy? After 30 years of marriage, he has never shown such protection for me. I thought we had a long-lasting love. But the truth was that I was not worthy of his attention at all. Protected, Isla Shun fiddled with her smooth and delicate fingers, and then looked at my hands, which were dark and wrinkled from years of housework. She looked down on me. You've been a housewife for 30 years and you probably haven't even been out of town a few times, right? Have you ever seen the gorgeous aurora in the Arctic? Have you ever chased the dazzling meteor shower? Do you know what it feels like to overlook the world from the top of Mount Everest? Are you just trying to win back your husband's heart before you die? Standing next to Arlo Lu, Isla Shun gently took his hand, and suddenly let go as he was filled with surprise. He looked at me with pride. See, I can easily get what you have been longing for your whole life. Arlo Lu stood beside Isla Shun affectionately. Isla, I will always wait for you. However, I have long been indifferent to these things. So after all this talk, where is the money? As early as when Arlo Lu and my son asked me to die, I thought it through clearly. Love and family are indeed a very important part of my life, but they can never be more important than myself. From then on, I only love myself. Isla Shun bit her lip and continued to add to the pressure unwillingly. You still don't know what Arlo Lu has been hiding from you for so many years, right? Hearing this, Arlo Lu's face changed and he looked at Isla Shun. Isla Shun gave him a reassuring look and continued, do you know why I travel around the world without any worries? Isla Shun's travel photos on WeChat moments. She always stays in the best hotels, eats at the most expensive restaurants, and even when crossing the sea or climbing mountains, she always hires the most professional staff to accompany her. Any one of these is a considerable expense. I originally thought she was a rich second generation, but now it seems not. My eyes shifted to Arlo Lu, who looked guilty. Isla Shun's next words confirmed my guess. Yes, that money was given to me by Arlo Lu. Even though I had guessed it, I was still a little confused. He's just an ordinary employee with a monthly salary of 6,000 yuan. Where did he get the money to give you? Isla Shun burst out laughing. No way, no way. As Arlo Lu's wife, don't you know how many times he has been promoted? She laughed and then covered her mouth exaggeratedly. Oh, you really don't know. After all, he gives you 6,000 every month, and the rest is all used to support my dream. Arlo Lu hid his guilty look and added, I'm sorry, Alara. When I retired, my monthly salary was already NT 100,000. Oh, so what? Arlo Lu and Isla Shun, who were looking stunned, and suddenly found it funny. Could it be that these two people wanted to piss me off to death in this way so that they could get the insurance money earlier? Are you not angry? Arlo Lu asked me blankly. I shook my head. It's okay. The money has probably been squandered by Isla Shun anyway. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sold your house to buy one for Isla Shun. But since you've decided to use my insurance money to buy a villa for Isla Shun, that means you haven't sold it yet. I shrugged nonchalantly. I advise you to give me the money quickly. I have recorded our conversation just now. If you don't give me the money, I will ruin your reputation. Oh, by the way, I'm dying anyway, so I'm not afraid of losing everything. If you push me too far, I might do something irrational. I pretended to go to the kitchen to get a kitchen knife, but Arlo stopped me. He held my wrist tightly and asked in a low voice, gritting his teeth, Alara, why aren't you angry? Do you still love me? Are you sick? I forgot that Arlo was indeed ill, and as soon as I swung my hand he was pushed to the ground by my action. You're going to attack me just for 100,000. Arlo couldn't believe it. I was so angry that I almost laughed. Why didn't I realize that Arlo was so good at turning the tables before? What do you mean just for 100,000? Arlo, we've been married for 30 years, and you told me that your monthly salary is only 6,000. I have to be frugal without reducing my quality of life, and I dare not spend even 1,000 a month. 100,000 yuan. I will have to save for many years. Sure enough, no matter how I comforted myself, hatred still welled up in my heart when I thought about how I had wasted so many years on this scumbag. For a moment I really wanted to rush into the kitchen, hit him a few times with the kitchen knife, and kill him, but I held myself back. What does it mean to let him die so easily? I want to watch him gradually waste away from the pain of illness, and struggle to death in pain day after day. Only then can I relieve the hatred in my heart. Are you going to go back on your word? Arlo, are you still a man? Arlo gritted his teeth. Okay, Alara, you have the guts. Isla, transfer the money to her. Isla Shun was a little reluctant. Arlo, don't forget. Don't worry. The insurance money will be enough for us to spend until we die. When this bitch dies, it's not a loss. If this bitch wants to die in a foreign land, I will make her wish. After confirming that I had received the money, I dragged my luggage, which I had packed long ago, and walked out the door without any reluctance. Behind the door there was a faint sound of conversation. Didn't you say that Alara loves you the most? If she knew the truth, she would definitely be so angry that her condition would worsen. How could I know that vicious woman was so cruel? Isla, help me up. My chest hurts a little. Are you sick? How is that possible? It's just a normal phenomenon as you get older. I took the money and quickly ran to the next city to rent a villa for 2 months and started my leisurely life. $100,000 is not a random request. Not only can it allow me to live a comfortable and pampered life for 2 months while waiting for Arlo's condition to worsen to the point of death, but it can also allow me to hire a private detective to help me monitor Arlo's movements. As usual, I clicked on the video sent to me by private detective Xiao Lu. In the video, Arlo and Isla Shun were choosing a house at the sales office. To my surprise, my son and daughter-in-law were also there. They talked and laughed together just like a family. The daughter-in-law smiled and praised Isla Shun. Auntie Sun is indeed someone who has traveled all over the world. Her knowledge is really admirable. The son next to him also agreed. Yeah, I don't want to be like my mom, who is always stingy. When I was a kid, she even dragged me to the market to buy vegetables with her. I watched her argue with the vendors over 50 cents. Now I feel ashamed when I think about it. I can't compare to you at all. Arlo stood proudly beside Isla Shun. That's right. Isla is the person I have loved all my life. If Isla hadn't said that she didn't want to get married before fulfilling her dream, I wouldn't have settled for marrying Alara. Isla Shun, who was being held in the arms, had a proper smile on her face and looked very pleased. I am different from ordinary women like Alara. I have a dream. I decided to travel around the world when I was 20 years old. Now I am 68 years old, and I have never changed. My spiritual world is rich and abundant, but Alara's is too barren and she has no pursuits of her own. Please don't compare her with me next time. Seeing this, I suddenly paused. Is my spiritual world so barren? It seems to be true that I cut off the stream that watered my spirit with my own hands and blocked it with daily necessities. I married Arlo. I actually had a dream. I loved writing and dreamed of becoming a writer. Later, when I was 35 years old and still not married, my family started arranging blind dates for me. And that's how I met 40-year-old Arlo. I asked Arlo why he was still not married at the age of 40, and Arlo said he was waiting for the right person. Later, we spent more and more time together, and our feelings gradually warmed up. It was natural for us to be together, and I naturally thought that I was the one he was talking about. We gave birth to our son 1 year after we got married. Arlo Lu asked me to quit my job and be a housewife to take care of my son and his sick parents, and I would leave the money making to him in the future. To be honest, I didn't want to resign, but both my newborn son and my bedridden in-laws needed help, and someone had to give in a marriage, so I finally gave in. That period was really hard. My son needed milk powder and my in-laws needed medical expenses. I tried my best to save money and did odd jobs whenever I had time. I was so tired every day that I didn't want to talk. Arlo Lu obediently handed over his 6,000 yuan salary every month. I fully understood how hard it was for Arlo Lu to make money, so I was determined not to spend a penny carelessly. I became more and more calculative, including with myself. Several times, I had a high fever due to overwork and would rather endure it than go to the hospital, for fear of putting pressure on Arlo Lu. Fortunately, Arlo Lu understands me and will help me with housework every time he comes home from work, no matter how late it is. When he finds out that I was sick and trying to stay healthy, he always rushes me to the hospital, looks at my hand that is receiving an 4 drip with a distressed look on his face, and thanks me for my efforts in words. I thought he loved me too, so I was even more unreserved. Trivial matters occupied my daily life and my dream of writing was gradually forgotten, but I did not feel that I was poor because I believed that I could get energy from the family that I managed seriously. But it wasn't until I was 65 that I realized that all these years I had been rooted in false soil that was squeezing my nutrients and even trying to take my life. The shadows of the trees outside the window swayed and made a rustling sound, and I suddenly wanted to pick up a pen and write something. Time really does go by fast when you're busy, and 2 months have passed in the blink of an eye. Xiao Lu monitors Arlo Lu's movements every day, and sends me a few videos from time to time, most of which are sweet daily moments between him and Isla Shun. But I noticed in these videos that Arlo Lu's complexion was getting worse and worse, and he even had a painful expression and looked listless. I calculated the time and felt that Arlo Lu was probably not far from death, so I decided to go back. It was evening when we arrived, and when we opened the door our son and daughter-in-law were there. In order to celebrate the news of my sudden death outside, and to share the insurance money, they shamelessly moved in. Unfortunately, they were disappointed when I stood in front of them in high spirits. Everyone's face was filled with surprise. "Why aren't you dead yet?" Thinking that I was about to die, my daughter-in-law no longer cared about me, and just turned against me, wishing that I would die instantly in the next second. I pretended not to understand and asked her, "I'm fine. How could I die?" The next second, Isla Shun's mocking voice sounded, "You're already in the advanced stage of lung cancer. Why are you pretending to be indifferent?" Arlo Lu, who had been curled up on the sofa with a listless look, suddenly sat up with a defensive look on his face. "You don't want to get treatment, do you? I'm telling you, it's impossible. You'll die whether you want to or not. Don't worry, you will definitely die before me." I smiled back at Arlo Lu. Now Arlo Lu is still fantasizing about the happy life with his first love after the death of his original wife. How could he allow me to curse him like that? His face turned black and he wanted to yell at me, but the next second his face twisted. He held the table and retched painfully, then started coughing wildly, as if he wanted to cough out his entire lung. I chuckled and said, "See, I'll tell you what I am saying." Isla Shun looked at Arlo Lu, who was coughing and drooling, with disdain in his eyes. His son argued loudly, "What are you talking about? Dad just has a bad stomach due to his age. There's no need for you to curse him." Arlo Lu coughing up blood, I took out the checklist I had prepared long ago and slapped it hard on my son's face. "Open your eyes wide and take a good look. Is it a stomach problem or advanced lung cancer?" The son, holding the checklist, stood there in a daze. The daughter-in-law looked over and covered her mouth in surprise. Isla Shun also looked over with a frown. "How is that possible?" Arlo Lu suddenly felt panicky for no reason. He finally stopped coughing and staggered over to grab the checklist. Arlo Lu was stunned when he saw his name and the words late-stage lung cancer written in black and white. "Impossible. This is impossible. How could I be the one who got lung cancer?" He hysterically tore the checklist into pieces. Fake, Alara. There should be a limit to how much you can lie to others." The son was relieved to hear him say that. Turned out to be fake. I was scared to death. "Mom, how could you joke about such a thing?" I shook my head helplessly, pointed at Arlo Lu, who had lost 10 pounds in 2 months and looked pale, and me, who looked radiant and energetic, and asked, "Who of us looks more like someone with advanced lung cancer?" The answer was obvious, and Arlo Lu's expression suddenly became desperate. If I had cancer, I would jump off the building immediately and never burden my family. I looked at Arlo Lu, smiled and returned to him the words that had hurt me. No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Save me, son. Go sell your house. Isla, can you please give me back my money so I can go see a doctor? We can be together when I recover. Fearing death, Arlo Lu burst into tears and snot falling down. However, his son and daughter-in-law, who had been filial to him just now, suddenly changed their expressions. His first love, who had been licking him for many years, immediately stepped back more than 10 steps, as if Arlo Lu was some pathogen. Mom is right. Don't you know that advanced cancer cannot be cured? So please stop dragging us down. Okay, yes, the little baby will be born in 5 months. As a grandfather, how can you bear to cause trouble for him? The righteous accusations of his son and daughter-in-law fell on Arlo Lu, and he was almost unable to support himself and swayed. Isla. Arlo Lu looked towards Isla Shun with his last hope. Isla Shun bit her lip. Forget about the house. Arlo Lu, I will use the money you give me to continue traveling around the world and enrich my spiritual world. No, the daughter-in-law yelled. Why should I let you spend my father-in-law's money? Isla Shun frowned at the sharp voice and shook her head in disappointment. This is the money Arlo Lu you gave me voluntarily. Why can't I use it? I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. I originally thought you were genuine, but I didn't expect you to be so utilitarian. If you continue like this, you will only become a housewife with no dreams or aspirations like Alara, and even your soul will become empty. The daughter-in-law has a hot temper and gets angry easily. She has long regarded the money that Arlo Lu gave to Isla Shun as her own, but because Arlo Lu was there, she dared not show it. But now Arlo Lu is dying of cancer, and in her eyes Isla Shun has become a sinner who stole her money. Fuck you, no matter what. I'm better than a leech like you who spends your whole life sucking blood from other people's families. Give me the money or I'll call the police. You shameless third brother. How dare you cheat my father-in-law of his money? I will beat you to death. Slapped Isla Shun directly on the face. Isla Shun did not expect his daughter-in-law to hit him, and his face was twisted. How dare you hit me? Isla Shun looked at her daughter-in-law in disbelief. I'm going to hit you for what you did. Stop arguing. Shut up. Everyone shut up. Arlo Lu was so annoyed that his temples were throbbing. He choked and shouted, and right after he finished shouting, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. The inheritance hasn't been handed down yet. An ambulance. Call an ambulance. The son quickly dialed 120. An ambulance arrived and medical staff rushed over to put Arlo Lu on a stretcher and carried it away. Fearing that Isla Shun might run away secretly, my daughter-in-law dragged her downstairs with the medical staff. My son walked last. Before he left, he looked back at me and rubbed his hands. Mom, don't mind what I said to you before. You know I speak my mind. Will you come with me to the hospital? I refused and my son turned and left quickly, fearing that he would miss the inheritance in the next second. It's a pity that Arlo Lu didn't die in the end. The next day I went to the hospital to add insult to injury, and I heard a quarrel before I even got close to the ward. Where do you want to go? You stinky bitch. Where's your money? In the hospital corridor the daughter-in-law stopped Isla Shun. The daughter-in-law had a loud voice and everyone around looked over. Isla Shun's face suddenly turned dark. What money? I don't have any money. Do you have any manners? Can you take responsibility for the fact that you dragged me into trouble at my age? Isla Shun wanted to take advantage of her age, but her daughter-in-law didn't buy it at all. She pulled Isla Shun's hair and said loudly amid Isla Shun's screams, "Fuck you. I'm still pregnant. Can you bear the responsibility if something happens to me? I'm telling you, if you don't spit out the money today, you can't leave." More and more people gathered around and some wanted to stop the fight, but the daughter-in-law quickly shouted again, "Oh my, come and have a look. This third sister seduced my father-in-law and destroyed his family. Now my father-in-law is sick, and she even wants to embezzle the money for his life-saving treatment. She has no conscience." The person who wanted to stop the fight hesitated and turned to notify the security. Isla Shun was so angry that she almost went crazy. Although she was old, she was still very strong from running around when she was young. She pushed her daughter-in-law to the ground in a rage, and her stomach hit the iron chair in the corridor. Blood immediately flowed out from under her body. Isla Shun didn't have time to catch his breath before he was kicked out with great force. The son came over at some point. "Fuck, my son is in trouble. am going to kill you. Isla Shun hit her head against the wall and had no strength to resist. Her son, not satisfied, kicked her in the stomach a few times. Then he carried his daughter-in-law, who was screaming in pain, to find a doctor. The chaotic farce came to an end, and I walked into Arlo Lus' ward. He was lying on the bed with a pale face, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. Alara, you finally came to see me. I know you still have me in your heart. I smiled and said, am here to add insult to injury. Arlo Lu, am really happy to see you lying here lifeless. Arlo Lu's eyes widened. You've changed. You weren't like this before. I sat on the chair in front of Arlo Lu's bed and asked him, so what do you think I am like? A hard-working nanny, a free reproductive machine, or an ATM that can give you a sky-high insurance payout after your death? No, it's not like that. I was just obsessed with it before. I was wrong. Turbid tears flowed down his face and seeped into his wrinkles, but I knew that he regretted not because he had deceived me but because he had no money for chemotherapy, and could only lie in bed waiting to die. Arlo Lu, you are a coward. When you were 40, you were afraid that you would not be able to get Isla Shun, and would not be able to complete your goal of getting married and having children, so you cheated on me. From 40 to 70, you gave money to Isla Shun in order to continue being a lapdog, and shamefully asked me to cover for you. 70, you finally got brave and asked me to die to make room for Isla Shun. I paused, looked into Arlo Lu's tearful eyes, and said word by word, everything Arlo Lu, everything you have now is what you deserve. Arlo Lu's lips trembled and his fingers trembled uncontrollably, but he couldn't utter a word of rebuttal. After shaking for a long time, he could only say 4 words. Save me, Alara. No. In the end, the daughter-in-law's child was not saved and her son was taken away by the police. Because of the kicks his son gave Isla Shun, he was sent directly to the ICU. I was relieved to hear the news. At least Isla Shun is not dead. It's not that I care about Isla Shun, but Arlo Lu has not yet asked for the money he gave to Isla Shun over the years. Isla Shun only has over 1 million in her hands now. It doesn't matter. When Arlo Lu dies, she will have the money to pay me back. Arlo Lu became a doglicker and bought an insurance policy for himself, filling in Isla Shun as the beneficiary. I was able to find out all this thanks to the detective Xiao Lu I hired. He also helped me find evidence that Arlo Lu had been transferring money to Isla Shun for 30 years. I can't have 30 years of marriage only to get deception and no love, so at least give me some money. I packed all of this up and gave it to a lawyer waiting for Arlo Lu to die so I could file a lawsuit for money. In order to make Arlo Lu die sooner, I ran to his ward on time every day to irritate him. The son was sent to prison for intentional injury. The day the verdict came out, the daughter-in-law decisively divorced him and moved to another city. Isla Shun is still lying in the ICU. Bad news came one after another. Arlo Lu's condition deteriorated rapidly, and he was on his deathbed within a few days. The illness made him emaciated and he lay on the hospital bed like a skeleton without even the strength to speak. Alara, I'm sorry. His hearing is not very good, so to make sure he could hear me I spoke clearly in a loud voice word by word. I bit my lip. It wasn't that I didn't want to tell the truth to my son, but the more people knew about Arlo Lu's advanced lung cancer, the greater the risk of it being leaked. Jean, I saw clearly that he took his last breath in pain. He is not feeling well. Then I feel comfortable. Arlo Lu's ashes in a plastic bag and threw them into the trash can. I always believe that garbage should stay in the trash can instead of coming out to harm people. Another surprising thing was that the news of my son's death came not long after he was imprisoned. He had a conflict with a cellmate and was beaten to death. I thought about it and threw his ashes and Arlo Lus into a trash can. Isla Shun recovered a little. I took him to court to sue him. All her belongings, including the insurance money she had just received from Arlo Lu, were awarded to me. Not long after that, she died. Out of anger, from young to old, she sucked other people's blood like a leech to feed her dreams, and she also boasted that she was superior to others. She looked down on Arlo Lu. If Arlo Lu had not been stupid enough to allow his blood to be sucked for decades without regrets, she would not even remember this person. But now she doesn't have a bootlicker like Arlo Lu to suck her blood. She suddenly lost everything and had just been released from the ICU, and her body was not fully recovered yet. She was so angry that she accidentally killed herself. Getting the money can be considered as an explanation for my 30 years of marriage. After everything was settled, I started writing again. And the first thing I did was to adapt my 30 years of experiences into a novel. Words are powerful. I want to use my experience to tell more women to learn to love themselves first, and then love others. After the novel was published, it was widely welcomed, and I became a well-known writer, finally fulfilling my dream when I was young. I also donated all the profits from this novel to charity to help women who are sick and abandoned by their families. Recently I started to conceive a new novel, which is a story about an older woman who resolutely draws a line between herself and her cheating husband. I want to tell all women, no matter when, we must have the courage to fly high. Above the haze there must be a sky that belongs to us. By then the sun will be shining.